I imagine being a runner must have some level of PTSD attributed to it, considering the vast amounts of vile bullshit that you see. Okay, let's go back to the den. Let's have a talk with Ager. Hey, video game? Thank you. Your PDA rings, and the face of your fixer, Paul Amsel, appears on screen. I have uncovered some terrible information. The team is assembled in the safe house. Please meet with us there when you are able. Okay. I will meet with you immediately, Paul. And then I'll have a chat with everybody. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Paul, what's up? As you step forward, the rest of your team falls silent. Amsel shifts his attention to you. You can see the worry on his face. God, I am very dry. Hold on. I need to take a second. Meowlissa, I have new information. I'm afraid that the news isn't good. Yeah, I can tell. You've gathered the whole team. He nods. Yes, this is something that you all need to hear. Well, go on. We're listening. 2 years ago, a large shipment of highly lethal radioactive bioweapon disappeared en route to a storage facility in Dresden. The weapon was designated X-15. I have traced the path of the missing shipment. It was delivered to the Harfeld Manor. Well, that sounds horrible. It is. I've heard of this stuff before. Back in the service, we called it Doom. Alright. I've never run across it in the wild, but I've heard enough horror stories to know that I don't want to. The stories that you've heard are correct. This Doom is an extremely dangerous substance. He gestures to a technical document on his computer's display. I've been reading up. To this day, the story of Doom remains a cautionary tale in biotech circles. Monoclonal antibody technology is strictly regulated now, and this substance is one of the reasons why. What does this stuff do, exactly? Amsel clears his throat and reads aloud from the information on his screen. Doom kills by destroying a host's muscle tissue via radioactive decay. Each individual Doom antibody is bound to a radioactive bismuth-212 isotope. When introduced into a host, these antibodies bind to surface-level muscle tissue. The tissue is then killed with alpha radiation. Oh. I probably should have taken a moment to burp. This process repeats itself until the host wastes away and dies. Jesus. Ager nods grimly. I've heard that Doom was deployed in a couple of border skirmishes back in 41. After seeing what it did to people close up, the UK has passed a unilateral ban on the stuff. If that doesn't tell you how bad it is, nothing will. Okay, so I hesitate to ask, but what would a dragon want with this Drek? Nothing good. That much goes without saying. This development worries me, Meowlissa. It worries me greatly. I'm looking at the big picture here, and I don't like what I see. There's a moment of silence, then Dietrich speaks up. Well, in my book, this doesn't change anything. I mean, it ups the stakes that the Firewing's allowed to carry out her plans, whatever those might be, but we're gonna stop her before that happens. That was always the plan. As far as I'm concerned, it's still the plan now. I agree with Dietrich. We need to focus on what's in front of us. Whatever the dragon's larger plans are, the fact is that she's after us. We shouldn't let ourselves get distracted by anything else. Amsel is slow to respond. Finally, he nods. Yes, I concur. For the time being, we must continue forward. And that means that you must continue working toward raising Alice's fee. I'll leave the matter in your capable hands, Meowlissa. When you've acquired the necessary funds and are ready to head back out to the rabbit hole, let me know. From there, we will discuss our next steps. Good. If you need me, I'll be getting prepped for the next run. Right behind you, love. Dietrich casts a backward glance at Glory. If any of this has had an impact on her, she doesn't show it. Come on, Glory. Let's go. Alright. I need to talk to Ager, because she's not going to be very happy with me, and that needs to be discussed. Ager glances up from her PDA at the sound of your approach. Meowlissa, this isn't the best of times. Her body language is self-assured, but you can hear the anxiety in her voice. Something has her worried, and in a big way. I wonder if party members have their own little side quests to do. That'd be interesting. Talk to me, Ager. If something's putting you on edge, I want to know what it is. There is a long pause. Finally, she turns her PDA so that you can look at the screen. This. The image that greets you is a holopic of a rail-thin orc with jet black hair. Who am I looking at? His name is Yuli Kozlov, but he's better known by his handle, the Engineer. He's a mercenary, ex-Spetsnaz, one of the best in his field. I ran up against him in my KSK days. Why is this important? It's important because he's a monster, Meowlissa. Where he goes, misery follows. The engineer is cold, calculating, utterly pitiless, and impeccably well trained. And he's all too willing to sell his service to the highest bidder. Alright, what kind of services are we talking about? His specialties are social engineering and wet work. In practice, he spends most of his time paving the way for organized crime syndicates to seize new territory. He sets up bribes, takes out key members of the opposition, and forges alliances with existing street gangs. All of the groundwork that a syndicate needs. He's extremely bad news, Meowlissa, and my contact spotted him in Shottenest. That's a little too close to the cruise bazaar for comfort. Exactly. I've seen what the engineer can do up close. My KSK unit tracked him a few years ago. I had him in the sights of my rifle, but I was ordered to hold fire. We couldn't afford to give away our position. To this day, I regret obeying that order. I saw what happened to the town he was softening up after the syndicate moved in. Meowlissa, I have to stop him before it's too late. What happened to that town, it can't be allowed to happen again in Shottenest. Agreed. Do you know who he's working for now? The safest bet would be a Russian syndicate, but there's no telling. His client list is longer than you'd expect. Got any examples? Well, I know for a fact that he's worked for mafia groups operating inside and outside of Russia, and he put in a lot of time with the Lobachevsky syndicate. He's taken contracts with the Triads as well. My contacts tell me that he's even done a few jobs for Taminus. Alright, so what do? We stop him. Or rather, I stop him. She looks you in the eye. I can't ask you to put off her mission for this, but the engineer has to be stopped, so I'm going to have to disappear for a run or two. I know how important it is that we resolve the Firewing situation. I get it, but I can't just sit back and let this happen. I won't. If the cruise bazaar is at risk, this is too important a job to rest on the shoulders of one person. I'm going with you. End of story. Alright, fearless leader. You're right. I could use the help. But the others, they can't know about this. This is going to have to be a quiet job. 2 people max. You sure you're prepared for this? If you can't hold up your end, I'll be better off on my own. Don't worry about me. I'm solid. Yeah, I know you are. Grab your things and meet me at Der Wayne-Keller. I've got a contact who's going to join us there, and he can help us figure out on our next step. Hey. Any thoughts about the last run? She shrugs. It was a nice change of pace. A simple job with a straightforward objective. I'm not happy with the hit that our reputation took. You shouldn't be either. We need our clients, and we can't afford to get blacklisted. But at least you did the right thing in the end. Nothing right now, Ager. Okay. She was a lot less mad with us than I expected that she would be. Jobs directory. Claim payment for the final cleanup job. No sense in mincing words. Your job performance was satisfactory at best. Your fee will be transferred immediately. Enjoy it while it lasts because you'll never work for us again. I don't care. Your job was shady. We're going to post pay data. And, you know what, let's check the BBS. Please help me find my daughter. She ran away from home. She is human in her early 20s with short blonde hair and data checked. She was last seen wearing a light blue dress. This is not exactly the place to be looking for missing kids. How did you even get in here? I paid good money to get on here. I was told you people could help. If you got the new yen, you came to the right place. I sent you a number that you can reach me at. The old help me find my missing kid routine. A classic. My money is on escaped wage slave. Make sure you do your homework, Ruby. Corp tracers. Anyone have a good backup plan for when you get stuck with the tracer? Barely managed to bug out of my apartment after a corp hit squad came knocking. Lesson learned, pat yourself down a couple times and make sure you don't have a tail. But if I miss something, I'd rather keep my safe houses, safe. I've had good luck with RF blockers. I have a jamming grid set up near my safe house. It projects any signals to a few miles away where I've got some cameras placed. So when someone shows up there, I know they were trying to find me. Then I do a thorough sweep to find the tracker. Sharp. How long does that go on before they give up? Usually rule of threes. I keep reprojecting the signal to different locations. In my experience, they give up after the third one is a dead end and stop listening to that RF signal. Interesting. I wonder if that will have some... I imagine that might have some relevance eventually. One last DVD. The screen flickers to life and Malit's face appears. She wears a plastic smile. Hoy again, Meowlissa. Well, I've recovered one last DVD for you, but I'm afraid that's all you're going to get. You might as well use the restless coasters. They're all beyond repair. If you look on the table beside your DVD player, you'll find the disc that I salvaged. She pauses. A slight frown crosses her face. To be completely honest, that was a lie. To cover this last disc, I was forced to subcontract. Trotty is still a brute of a man. I'm unimpressed with his manner, and his poor hygiene disgusts me. But he is very good with old things such as this. All credit where it's due. Hey, the homeless guy. The homeless guy made a return to this story. I like that. Hey, Glory? How's it going? For the first time since you've met her, Glory's expression seems to brighten. It's subtle, but it's there. You're sure of it. Meowlissa, a pleasure, as always. Need anything from me? If I didn't know any better, I'd think you were warming up to me. She studies your face for a moment before responding. I suppose that you might say that. I don't talk to many people, Meowlissa. It just doesn't seem to be worth the effort. I don't really feel much anymore. Not since... She caresses the chrome of her forearm with a hand made of articulate steel. This. If that's true, why are you still talking to me? I suppose because you've shown an interest, and because you haven't let me push you away. She locks eyes with you. Her expression is blank. I don't want to mislead you, Meowlissa. I still don't feel anything. Not warmth or friendship or even trust. But I can appreciate the effort you're making. It's something new, and it's worthy of exploring. Are you ready to tell me about that chrome you're sporting? I'm getting there, Meowlissa, but you'll have to give me some time. The answers will come when they do. You said that things went bad when you turned 14. I'd like to keep talking about that. No, I'd rather not. Because I don't see a reason to. The memories are unpleasant, and dredging them out doesn't serve any real purpose. You're wrong about that. The last time we talked, it had an impact on you. That's reason enough to continue. Okay. We're gonna get more Glory backstory, which might be dark, but whatever. She pauses a moment to consider your words, a troubled look on her face. I suppose that's true. Feeling discomfort is better than feeling nothing at all. Alright, here's the deal, Meowlissa. I'm gonna talk, you listen. When I'm done, I'm done. No complaints and no arguments, and we'll see what happens. Deal? Deal. Right. 1,000 meters stare creeps back into Glory's eyes. A moment later, she's locked away in her own head again, reliving memories that she'd long since filed away. So a few days after my 14th birthday, I began to express. Magically. You're magically active? I was. Glory gestures to her cyberware-riddled body. Not anymore. There was another long pause, and Glory becomes more animated. Anyway, I turned 14. I awakened. I don't even remember how my parents found out about it anymore. I think that my dad caught me playing with a tiny city spirit that I coaxed out of a pile of garbage. Something like that. With everything that happened afterward, those days are kind of a blur. What I do remember is my father's response to the revelation that his little girl was a witch. A hex. He beat the living shit out of me with his fist, and then his belt, and then a claw hammer that he grabbed out of his toolbox. All the while my mother was screaming and flailing at him. She took a couple licks with the hammer too. I'd very much like to murder your father. Was that a good thing to say? I don't think that's a good thing to say. It's a miracle that you survived. I'm just lucky, I guess. No. No. I wouldn't say that. So finally, after what felt like an hour, Dad stopped tuning me up with the hammer. I had broken ribs, a busted arm, I couldn't even see out of my left eye, and my entire right side was covered with one giant bruise. I was bleeding all over the place, making a real mess of the carpet. The old bastard spat on me. His bleeding, crying daughter. He spat on me, and told me that I was Des Teufelshuhr, the devil's whore. Oh, then he kicked me out of the house. As I was crawling away, my father told me that if he or any of his Cruise-Ritter brothers ever saw me again, they'd treat me as the Berlin chapter treats the enemies of God. If you're not familiar with how the Cruise-Ritters are here in Berlin deal with heretics, it's decidedly less pretty than what my dad and his buddies did to their victims. I got the hint, and the next morning I hitched a ride out of Stuttgart. You were a human girl, presumably with an ID. Why didn't you go to a hospital? Oh, I did, but not in Stuttgart. If I went to a local hospital with the kind of injuries that Dad gave me, there'd be questions, and I couldn't afford to stay in town any longer than I had to. Even if my dad wound up getting arrested for beating me, the rest of the local Cruise-Ritters would have found me, and I'd have wound up skinned alive or thrown into the Neckar. I wound up in Tübingen? Sure. I figured it'd be a safe enough place to find medical attention, maybe to call home. It's not far from Stuttgart, but it was a huge student community that I figured I could blend into, and the university there has a decent magic department. My ride dropped me off at the university hospital, and they patched me up pretty good. Had some questions for me about how I got so beaten up, but I lied and told them that I'd been mugged, which played nicely into my complete lack of cash, credit, and identification. Glory pauses for a moment and looks down at the floor, then fixes her eyes on you. She is visibly tense. We're gonna fast forward through the next few years. I was a kid in the street. I got by as best I could, doing whatever I had to. The rest we can leave up to your imagination. Good? You did what you had to do. I'm no stranger to that myself. I don't think that anyone working in the shadows is. She nods. I figured you'd understand. So anyway, I lived on the street for a few years. Got used to being hungry all the time, got used to getting rained on, got by. I was painfully aware that I had magical talents, but without any kind of training or guidance, I didn't really know how to use or develop them. Truth be told, they scared me, so I more or less ignored them. So it just sort of went like that until a few days after my 17th birthday. Then I met Marta, and everything changed. Marta was a sweet girl. At first I took her for a street kid like me. Her clothes were a little ratty, and she seemed comfortable being near me. But she also looked well fed and happy, and those were two things that I hadn't been in years. We started hanging out, and before I knew what was happening, I was in love. Aww. There was a genuine attraction between Marta and me, I think. But I also think that a lot of my attraction for her came from the fact that she was the first person in years to give a damn about me. She cared, and I loved her for that. Glory pauses. She looks flustered, her composure cracked. Keep going, Glory. She stares at you for a beat, then nods. A few ragged breaths later, she continues. Marta told me about a place where she'd been hanging out. She invited me to join her there. It was called, Fierstel, the fireplace, and it was sort of a commune for dispossessed youth. It turns out that a lot of the street kids that I'd known over the years had moved there. The way that they disappeared, I'd assumed that they'd been kidnapped or killed or had gone back to their parents. But there they were. I remember being kind of angry about it, like, how did everybody get the memo about this but me? Marta calmed me down. She was good at helping me work through my feelings, and I wound up following her to Fireplace. To a street kid, it was basically paradise. The owner, a guy named Harrow, had set up this little farm just outside Tübingen in the Schönbuch Forest. I hate this. The Schönbuch Forest is officially a nature park, but not many people go there nowadays. Too much fear of paranormal activity. Paranormal animals, I guess. Not paranormal activity. Anyway, park or not, it was plenty big enough for us to hide in. It was also safe and pretty, and the farm was well stocked with food. Most importantly, Fireplace gave us a sense of community and stability that we never had on the street, and we loved Harrow for that. He became like a surrogate father to us. Glory pauses again, and you recognize the distinctive flush in her cheeks. She seems to have come out of her reverie once again. That's enough for now. I need to process all of this, and I don't want to continue forward until I've had the chance to do that. I know that this all happened years ago, but I guess it's still pretty raw to me. So I'm going to ask you to give me some space for a while. She turns away, and the frost begins to creep back into her voice. We can pick it up later. I love Glory a lot. She's a really good character. Alright, let's go. Oh no, we have to do before we even do the Agar thing, we have to watch the DVD.